Hello, I am Andrew.
And hello, I'm Paul.
And this is Paul and Andrew Watch All of Halloween, where tonight we're watching the 1988 film Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, which means we are a third of the way through the Halloween franchise already. That's quite zippy. Feels quite zippy, yeah.
And normally we do a first kill drink. Today, given the weather, we're going to be encouraging you to do a pre-first kill drink, a whenever you feel like it drink, and a stay hydrated drink throughout the entire evening.
Today's show is brought to you by lots and lots of water.
How have you been feeling about the 3 Halloween movies we've seen so far? That good.
I still love Halloween 1.
Yep.
Halloween 2, I don't know if I've mellowed out, but I'm kind of wondering if I was a bit harsh with my opinions on it earlier. Mm-hmm. Halloween 3, I still think it was all right. Yeah. I think there's some massive parts of it, like the non-explanation of how they stole Stonehenge and the whole...
We just did, it's fine, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's one of those, what the hell did you bother justifying? In movies that don't need justifications, it's got one of the shittest justifications I've ever seen. And I'm just like, that was mental, but not in a good, that was just dumb, you know. But yeah, but the more I think about it, the more rabidly anti-Irish and rabidly sexist, and how creepy that relationship was.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
I'm thinking things are going to get kind of back on track. And do you know why I'm thinking that?
Is it because this one's titled The Return of
The Return
of Michael Myers?
You may say that, he says, frantically looking for the right button.
It's one of them. It's somewhere. It's the black screen.
Indeed. It is The Return of Michael Myers.
Got there in the end.
We got there in the end. So, here are some amazing facts. As you may have thought, it didn't go, as discussed last time, the producers wanted to make an anthology series, and it kind of worked, but not that well. While Season of the Witch did make a reasonable chunk of change, it did make 10 million less than Part 2 off of the same budget, so it was less of a return. And apparently everyone left the cinema going, but where is Michael? Even though it was clearly explained, Michael, in that universe, Michael was a character from a movie. I thought it was very blatant where Michael was, but these are dumbasses. So there was also a chunk of bad press about the deaths, about the movie, because of a murder in December of 1982, when Francis and Iligan Husbut were murdered by an arsehole, due to that person being an arsehole.
More on that later.
The defense then blamed the movie Halloween 2, which the defendant had watched under the influence of PCP, marijuana, and alcohol for the arsehole's actions. I think he may have just been a cock. So other than that, it was basically, for whatever reason, I'm not quite been able to nail down, it was dead as a franchise for quite a while. Until about 1987, at which basically that was when Freddy and Jason were just ripping stuff up on the scene. And then Moustapha Al Akkad wanted to make another movie, this time bringing back Michael Myers and causing the first split in the timeline. Oh, yes. The amazing, amazing timeline. So here we go with the first installment of Halloween timelines. It's very simple to begin with. We have Halloween. Halloween then begot
with you so far?
Halloween 2, as we all know.
Logical.
And then, and this is very important in case people get confused, Halloween 3 it's connected to Halloween 1 in that, as said, it was presented as being a movie. So in Halloween 3, it appeared as a movie, which is why henceforth we will call it the movie in a movie sequence.
So
Okay.
is it set after Halloween 2? I'm just surprised it's coming off Halloween.
Halloween 3 is coming off of Halloween because it presents the movie Halloween.
Yeah.
Rather than the movie Halloween 2. It is set off. It came out after Halloween 2, but the trailer was for Halloween, not for Halloween 2. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes.
Now.
Anyway, thus, the actual sequel to Halloween 2 is Halloween 4. Does that all make sense to everyone?
That all makes sense.
Fantastic. Anyway, the script was troubled. Dennis Edgerton and Carpenter wrote a first script. It was directed for being too cerebral. And additionally, for reasons I've not been able to discover, but believed to be far too busy concentrating on revolutionizing cinema, can't be asked repeating themselves again. Carpenter and Hill signed off all their rights to Arkady, who gained complete ownership. I mean, they had basically just revolutionized it. But this was also the period when Carpenter had done Big Trouble in Little China. He'd done Christine, an amazing movie. He'd done Starman, which basically broke Jeff Bridges. He was making They Live, one of his greatest sci-fi works. He'd done the Prince of Darkness, the second part of his Apocalypse trilogy. We're basically talking groundbreaking, multifaceted, esoteric horror, and he came up with a script that the director said was too cerebral, and he just went, yeah, fine, I'm done. So yeah, Hill was just producing loads of other really exciting projects. So they brought on this chap. This is Alan B. Elroy, brought in to write the script for Halloween 4. Due to the writers' strike however, he was due to the writers' strike, which was going to be happening on March the 7th that year. He had to pitch, write, and revise a final draft of the film in 11 days.
Ooh.
Yes, although a final draft is different to a shooting draft, it gets tricky.
But still, I imagine that's pretty tight.
That is pretty tight. It is doable. And the gentleman in question has gone on to have a very successful career writing a number of very well-regarded horrors. But he was incredibly happy to do it that quickly because he was a huge fan of the series and absolutely loved parts 1 and 2. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that one of the reasons he really liked them was the first time he saw part 1 was with his girlfriend in an empty theatre. And part 2 he saw after an absolutely epic bender. So there might be reasons why he very fondly regarded the series, but he managed to, it was a new writer on the block. He managed to get it knocked out and just beating the writer's strike, which also probably helped with the movie because it meant it was actually in production and could fill what was going to be the upcoming gap in the release schedules. Anyway, along with him, mostly a new cast. Donald Pleasance did come back. Surprisingly enough, he agreed to it in principle, but said he would only do it after reading the script. So that left him in a really fun situation where they basically had to convince him to turn up because this is the script and we haven't got another one. Jamie Lee Curtis didn't because she was making significantly bigger movies elsewhere. She'd done Fish Call Wanda, Trading Places, and was basically doing really well. No bad blood. She just wasn't interested in coming back again, which is fair enough. So she got bumped off movie, and it's her kid who is seen in it, which causes a huge amount of fun because Halloween 2 came out in 1981, and this is based after the events of Halloween. This is based like in 1988 after the events of Halloween 2, right? And if the kid's 7, so there's a 7-year gap between part 2 and 3. Yeah, which makes people go, "Ooh, she must have been pregnant during the events of Halloween 2." Yep. However, Halloween 2 is set the night after Halloween 1, which is set in 1979. Yep. Right.
78.
1978, sorry. So what we do know is that after the traumatic events of being blown up at the end of Halloween 2, she then had approximately 4 years of happiness, met someone very nice, because we know that Laura was a very, very sensible person, and then died in a car accident. The daughter in question is an absolute charmer. This is Danielle Harris. She got the role. She did beat out Melissa Joan Hart. So,
really? Okay.
Yes, people who know the world according to Melissa made, and I believe it was oh god, the Teenage Witch.
Yeah,
it could have all been very different, but yes, apparently, and she has gone on and had a very long career, a lot of it in horror, because she absolutely adored doing it. And this gentleman, this is George P. Wilbur. He got to play Michael because he was available, and that's about as much as I know on that one. I have found no amazing stories, but there are no amazing stories after Dick Warlock gets the job. Anyway, so everything took place in Salt Lake City. This happened in March. So, they had to bring in leaves. Bring in the leaves, but they also had to bring in the pumpkins, which weren't out at that time. So they used squashes painted orange to look like pumpkins. Brilliant. Isn't that dandy? That's quite nice. The cast and crew, who were lovely people, I am sure. They, whilst filming, cast and crew, they were made it a point to take it really easy on Danielle Harris, as she was 11 years old. So Wilbur regularly removed the mask in front of her in order to remind her that it was just a movie and he wasn't going to hurt her, which I think's really nice. There was more mask drama this time. They planned on using the Captain Kirk masks, but they couldn't find that because, oh my god, it's been almost a decade. A new mask was got from local costume shop. They cut a couple of scenes with it. It didn't look good, so they customized it again. Then got a new mask altogether. So they're basically two masks that were used in this one. So yeah. And after it was all done, after viewing the rough cuts, director Dwight H. Little and producer Akkad decided the film's violence was far too soft, so got an extra day of blood filming, and that was done by John Carroll Butcher, who was the director of Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood.
Okay.
So suddenly Jason, suddenly that.
Suddenly
Michael returns, didn't you hear? Anyway, enough of that. Would you like to hear what the?
I always.
There was also in the post-production they worked out that they started working on Part 6, which came out the year afterwards, about the same cost with a relatively similar production schedule and all that. Because why not cash in on what you started?
Well, yeah, ka-ching.
So yes, would you like to hear the things that the critics said?
I always love to hear the critics.
Fantastic. So Kim Newman, starting out in his career of fine criticism for Empire, it's incredible that a film could be so closely patterned on Carpenter's still thrilling original movie and yet be so stupid, unscary, and plodding.
So we're starting with the positive ones then?
Oh, yes. Richard Harrington, The Washington Post, very much the cheap knockoff of its prototype, but not half as visceral.
Still good.
Staff writer at Variety, fourth entry in the Halloween horror series, is a no-frills, workman-like picture.
Okay.
Derek Adams of Time Out, the shocks are infinitesimal, the script diabolical.
So we've moved far away from the too cerebral scripts there.
Oh yes. There's apparently a version of that script still knocking around, but I've not been able to find any verifiableness on that. And then Eric D. Snyder, while Part 4 is better than Part 3, it's still worse than, say, being bitten in the retina by fire ants.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't think he liked it.
I'm not convinced it's going to be that bad, but I
don't think it's going to be that bad either. Oh, worry. I highly recommend. You lost me. Why have we lost her?
Oh, that
I
was
don't
on
know.
the timeline.
Oh, okay. I'll break it down.
Yeah.
But
I
that's
imagine
very
that,
useful. It's going to be useful for as things develop.
yeah. As time goes on, we'll
As
see
time
more of that.
you'll see. You'll see.
Yes.
Anyway, enough
Right.
about those facts. Let's have some statistics.
Let's see. Have we got some? Yes, here we are.
And do they
So-
have hidden? Do they have hidden Michaels jumping out in them?
No, they don't. I'm sorry about that.
Mine almost didn't either because
Yeah.
PowerPoint's being terrible to me these days. Right.
So, welcome back to Paul's exciting world of Halloween statistics. Excitement and statistics can go down as well as up. So, this time, as I mentioned earlier, actually, we're looking at a slightly more serious topic. So, in California in 1982, two people in their late 60s, Eileen and Francis Harbitz, were brutally murdered during a robbery. Between them, they were stabbed 43 times. The murderer told investigators that he was under the influence of PCP and cocaine and had a hallucination that he was being attacked by Michael Myers, having seen Halloween 2. The fact that he robbed his victims after stabbing them didn't go particularly well for his defense.
No.
Yeah, they didn't really believe any of this. But the media did pick up the story and ask that age-old question of, do violent movies inspire people to imitate them? So I've actually gone and found some real crime statistics from the US, and we can have a look at this.
Let's do it.
So the first of the big name slasher movie franchises comes out in 1976. So here we've got the number of murders in the US by year from 1976 up to 2018. So those are the years I was able to find. So there we can see there's a sort of big spike around 1980, and there's another one towards the end of the 90s. So that could be related to the films. Overall, though, there's actually a drop in the number of murders year on year, which is good.
Okay.
Generally good news all around. Less murders means people are more peaceful. Lovely.
Less murders good.
Always good. Right. But we're not just looking at any murders. We're looking at slasher movie inspired stabbings. So here we go. US deaths by stabbings each year. Again, you can see there's a nice big spike around the 1980, and it stays quite high in the 80s, which is when most of the movies came out. By the 90s, it starts to really tail off. Almost a number of sort of stabbings has gone down to about a third of what it was by 2018. Again, good news in the real world, but maybe sort of leans a little bit towards those slasher movies being related somehow.
That what the 80s were the golden era of the slasher, so I'm waiting for some big numbers to help us with this.
Yeah, indeed. So if we look at stabbings in relation to murders, we can see there's that spike and then dropping off.
Yeah.
But generally the downwards trend. So even within murders itself, stabbings are becoming less popular as time goes on.
Oh, there's far too much effort.
Yeah, obviously. And here we go. We've got US deaths by stabbings per 100,000 population. So again, you can see as the population of the US is increasing, the number of stabbings is really dropping off there.
Okay.
Again, good news in the real world, but again, we can sort of see that large number.
This is not going well.
Yeah, it doesn't look particularly positive, does it? So yeah, all of that seems to tie in when slasher movies were the most popular.
But
so here we've got those deaths by stabbings per 100,000 against the number of movies in the last decade. So I've taken the big slasher franchises,
right?
Like Friday the 13th and Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street and all that stuff, and counted the number of movies there were in the last 10 years, because that's generally how you'd get a saturation into the market as such.
Okay.
And you can sort of see that the blue line there sort of repeats what's going on with the yellow line, doesn't it? So you've got that big spike going up and then it's slowly trailing off. But the thing is, if it was the movies inspiring the murders, that blue line would have its spike before the yellow line, not after the yellow line.
Right.
So whilst we do have a correlation, what we can actually see is that the number of stabbings increased people's interest in movies about stabbings and inspired the slasher movies. So here we have art imitating life rather than life imitating art. And we can also see that as the number of stabbings in the real world has sort of drifted off, reduced significantly, the number of movies being released about stabbings has declined as well. So there's less and less interest in watching slasher movies. So there's always going to be specific individual cases where somebody say, oh, yes, it could be inspired. But generally, we can see here that, no, the movies were inspired by what was happening rather than what was happening being inspired by the movies.
That was a highly exciting statistic.
Now, of course, the other thing is that we may find that as, stabbings continues to drop down, if this pattern continues, that the slasher movie just becomes a thing of the past and there's no interest in it. So we could be sort of looking at, historical archives, and people will go, why would anybody want a slasher movie one day?
I'm willing to put up with that for no more stabbings.
I think it's a price worth paying.
Yeah.
But we're not quite there yet, so we're going to relive the past tonight.
Yay! We are indeed.
Over here we've got Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. The tagline for this one. I need to take that one off so you can see us.
I can read the tagline if you want.
No, that's fine. So, 10 years after his original massacre, the invalid Michael Myers awakens on Halloween Eve and returns to Haddonfield to kill his 7-year-old niece. Can Dr. Loomis stop him?
Well, I think he probably can.
Well, but can he? Because I know there's at least a Halloween 5.
Well, pause, slow down.
Yeah, slow him down a bit. So, what do you feel about this one? What are you expecting from it?
I'm going to be positive. Mm-hmm. I'm expecting jolly good performances from all those involved, and a script that was written in 11 days.
Yes, okay.
So I'm not expecting genius, but I'm hoping, considering how long they put it together, and the director is a pretty solid. I'm expecting something that wouldn't enthrall the average cinema goer, but would excite the genre enthusiast. I'm gonna say that. I don't know if I'm shooting too high.
I'm expecting Michael Myers to return.
Right. Okay. That's your goal. As long as Michael Myers returns, you're happy.
Yeah. As long as I get what it says, I'm there. Okay.
Okay. Well, right, I'm ready. I'm ready when you are. We're going to be doing this countdown. People. Oh God, yeah, definitely. Pre-kill drink.
Right then, we should start watching. 3, 2, 1, and go.
How did he survive? He got shot in each eyeball. Oh, we found a thumbprint. Where? In the guy's temporal lobe.
You have to understand, I was slightly irritated, which is why I cheated on you. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh! Oh, Jesus.
There's the window.
See, I told you it would attract concerned, drunken, armed militias. Nature's own candy. Ooh. Oh! Where's Loomis?
Well, he got chucked through a window. Not seen him since. So, did anybody check the back of the van?
I mean, not the underside back of the van.
Well, it's Michael Myers. It'll chuck him off the van at least. They probably won't kill him, but.
Okay.
Well,
Wow.
what did you think of that one?
Can I just have a minute to
To absorb that.
To absorb that. Okay, what did I think? I think that was far better than people made out.
Yes. I was expecting some real trash from the critics' reviews.
Because she's Michael Myers'
niece. Whether it runs in the family or whether there was some sort of connection between the two of them, don't know.
Yeah. There was some, because she had a massive traumatic event. I don't know. I don't know. And oof. So what did I think? Yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. It was significantly better than I'd been led to believe. I think it was...
Yeah, everything we'd read sort of said this is awful. And that sort of expectation that had been written in 11 days as well. I was expecting something that was going to be pretty sketchy.
Yeah, for an 11-day script, I thought it was pretty good. And like, I guess it probably was lacking some subtlety, but I think this was better than 2. If this had been the follow-on from 1, you know, I think also the fact they left it for 10 years and they came back with that's quite... It learned some tricks from the slashers that have been happening around the era, from the improved cinematics. But yeah, I just liked it. There was something really solid about that. As I said through it, the fact that they didn't go with replicating the stalker cam, I thought was a solid move, because number one, you're not going to do it as well as John Carpenter, because you're not John Carpenter. You're not John Carpenter. Get out. Number 2 is the idea of Michael was scary rather than Michael was being scary.
Yeah, I don't know how much screen time he actually had during that film, but it didn't feel like an awful lot. But then it did feel like he was there for a lot of it.
Oh, he was absolutely there. His presence was absolutely there from the get-go. The threat of Michael was there. I think the mask didn't look as good. I'm going to be honest. It was a bit of a, whatever mask. But the presence and the person playing him, I think, did an absolutely amicable job. But there were a couple of moments, like the bit when Loomis opened fire at the garage, and he just wasn't there. Yep. Okay, what's going on there? But it worked. I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just like, and the carnage, the absolute carnage at the police station. We didn't need to see that, and they didn't show us it. And it thoroughly established his credentials as a walking force of nature.
Yeah, just seeing the aftermath of what had happened there.
Yeah,
you sort of fill in the blanks yourself, don't you?
Yeah. So I really liked the Michael in this, even though he wasn't necessarily the best acted, he wasn't necessarily the best costume. The Michael in this I really enjoyed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah. What, yourself?
I've got to agree, just the presence of him without being on screen was really effective. That it was constant. There was no lull in the pace or anything like that. It was he was always there. He was always a threat, even when you had no idea where he was, because you could feel it, and that never gave up throughout the film. I do think it kept up that tension really well. I was expecting something which was going to be a lot more disjointed, but yeah, I'm actually very impressed with that, considering what I was expecting to see tonight.
And as I said, I was expecting really good performances from Pleasance and Harrison. Those two were great.
Yeah.
I found out the career she had after this movie, and it does not surprise me because in this movie, she was. It's not that she was doing well for an 11-year-old. She was acting really well.
There was what looked like genuine fear on her face at multiple points.
There was genuine fear, but there was an awful lot of emotion and complex fluid through various bits. Like the bit in the car was wonderful. Just you could see there was stuff going on. You could see there was stuff happening with beyond the literal text. So that was pretty nifty. Okay, so I know who my candidate is. Favorite kill.
That's an interesting one because there's several which I think were quite nice there. I'm gonna go for the boyfriend.
Okay.
Because it was the most drawn out one. He got quite a gruesome kill, but considering what he'd done during that, I think he kind of deserved it, although he was sort of redeeming himself by doing some good towards the end. So I like the mix up of it.
I wouldn't go with him deserving it. Yes, he was an arse, but not enough of an arse to deserve to die.
Not to deserve to die.
Yeah.
But he did deserve a bit more screen time on his death, considering he was going to die.
One thing I really liked in that was the damage he tried to inflict on Michael. I know there's that whole you can't stop him from bullets and all that, and it's like, okay, yeah, we get that, but there's something about Michael just being repeatedly punched in the face and not flinching.
But he's a kid who got handed this shotgun. And like, do you know how to fire a gun? Yes, here's a shotgun. And it's like, well, you probably don't know an awful lot about shotguns. And he showed that when he just did, I've fired 2 shots and there's nothing more in it.
But then again, he might. I don't hold that against him because he could very well. He was in an incredibly high pressure situation.
Yeah,
there's a huge difference.
I love that fact that it was realistic, because it wasn't he was like all of a sudden gun toting, gonna shoot million shots of rounds an hour or anything like that. It was like, oh crap, something's happened. And then he's trying to respond to that, so he's desperately fumbling to get extra rounds in. And when that doesn't work, he just picks it up and uses it as a club because it's available. And then when that doesn't work, he punches because that's what's available. And it was that lovely element of desperation to him. Yeah, trying to do something, trying to get those extra few seconds. I always enjoy that kind of kill.
I'm going to go completely lowbrow after your highbrow choice. It's got to go with the shotgun through the stomach because it was so ridiculous. Because it's like he's going to hit her with enough. He's going to hit her in the stomach with a shotgun with enough force to pick her up off her feet and nail her to a wall. Yes. When he could have just pulled the trigger. It was absolute showboating. That is just a man who loves his job far too much. Unfortunately, his job is killing people and he is a bad person. And that was definitely a good bit of schlock. That was some, what can we do that's gross? And I will, as a secondary, I am going to say the dead deputy, because that makeup, that look, that held up 4 shots, still looked good in rapid succession. That
kept coming back to it. Yeah,
that is an impressive bit of staging and of makeup. So got to give him props on that. Yeah. As the film as a whole, I really like that. The ending is definitely a hook for another movie. Yeah. But overall, I really liked it. I really liked the way they wrote the script, the way that people reacted sensibly, but dumb sensibly, like
yeah, it
the
might have
posse.
been futile, but they did what you would expect people to do. So you
Well, it's
weren't
like,
sitting there yelling at them, going, "Why have you done this?"
yeah, it's like the posse went off hunting Michael Myers and then shot some random guy.
Yeah.
The police went. It was that bit that we joked about when the police went, "Hey, are you joking?" And the other policeman said, "No." And so the first policeman goes, "Fine, okay, I'll take you seriously.
You are a police officer after all. I should listen to you."
Yeah. And then when they were getting the kids out of the hospital, out of the school, the kid was just like, "No, don't go there, you'll die." And the posse went, "True."
Yeah,
we're gonna go. But it was also like you were saying, did anyone check the back of the vehicle? And I'm like, what back of the vehicle? Where the hell could Michael be? It's like, no, they didn't check underneath before they legged it, because how would he have gotten there?
Yeah.
Why
would you? Yes.
There was a definite shift to the supernatural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a bit more of him appearing rather than making his way from A to B. He'd just sort of appear at B.
And like you commented, how did he get off that roof? Even just if he jumped down, how did he move that distance in that time? There were a number of appearances that are inexplicable. But I can't say I didn't like that. I mean, It's not trad Michael Myers, but by this point, Michael's been like shot, thrown off a roof, and shot square in the face, stabbed and blown up. So him getting a bit supernatural, I'm like, look, you can't say he's that hench just through good, eating his veggie and going for walks, because he didn't even move for 10 years. So there's, and he could poke people's eyeballs out from the back.
Yeah.
Something supernatural's happening here, and they weren't afraid to play with that. So
when I was sort of saying, has anybody checked the back of the van? It's because, although it wasn't sensible for them to have done so and like have a thorough inspection, it was the obvious place for him to appear for maximum carnage, basically.
Absolutely, but by that point, everyone had done enough sensible things.
Mm-hmm.
I really, I didn't feel like anyone deserved to. This is repeating, but it has to be said. I didn't feel like anyone deserved to die. I didn't feel like anyone was dumb. I thought they were all responding to, and Loomis's, he is evil. When he does the line, he's evil on two legs. That's ridiculous. Then we see what he did to the people in that garage. And it's like, yeah, no, he is. There was no need for him to do that. And he just did it because why not?
Mm-hmm.
So that was, very, very solid film.
Yeah. So I was expecting something bad tonight, and I got what I view to be a good horror film. So yeah, I was quite impressed.
Yeah, I also think it worked. It definitely worked very well as a sequel, because this is now fully. This could absolutely not. I don't know how to word this. Part 2 felt like a continuation, as in literally just tacky, because it started straight after it.
Yeah, it was the same night, basically. It was just going on a bit further that night.
This, I think, worked better as a sequel because it was substantively moving the plot line along. And this makes me feel like the series can have more happening to it than Michael turns up and knifes people.
Yeah, because you're now wondering more about the family connection. Why is he so obsessed with going after his family? And now that little Jamie's repeating the family business, how's that gonna interact with him?
But I'm also like, I want to go back, and I'm thinking back to the interactions he had with her beforehand. He didn't do anything violent to her at any point.
I mean, he was grabbing at Was he grabbing, or were they just dreams? I think they were just
No,
dreams.
he grabbed at her leg
Yeah.
when she was trying to escape. But
Right,
then
yeah.
again, she'd just fallen down the stairs. He had the physical power to just instantly yank her back. If you allow for the fact that he's an emotionless hunk of meat, I'm like, was that him trying to
Come here for a cuddle?
Yeah. I would want to go. I would sufficiently want to go. I'm sufficiently intrigued by what happened in that I'd want to go back and rewatch it. I have to say, and I'm going to compare it against Friday the 13th because it's obviously taken a lot of cues from that. It's also a lot more. They set a very obvious path for a sequel, but it's a very justified path for a sequel.
Yeah,
because it's like we know Michael can survive huge amounts of death, and they just let him at the bottom of a well. You idiots! As opposed to all the conclusive stuff they did with the Friday the 13th. So this is very much we are making a sequel. This is someone thinking about trying to build a narrative, trying to build a sequence of movies. So as a sequel,
I think there were quite a few things in that film which were obvious once they started to happen, but they weren't obvious before they happened, if that makes sense.
Yes, but they weren't. But it was not. It was rather than obvious. I would say they were
realizations.
Yeah. I don't think it was obvious. I think it was established. Yeah, established is a good word for it.
Yeah,
and it made sense. So that's my read on it.
Yeah. So as you say, that ending, you've got two definite threads there. What happens with Jamie? What happens with Michael?
Happens with Jamie?
Yeah. So that's left me looking forward to 5 to continue that story and find out a little bit more about it.
I am honestly very excited to see the next one in this series. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So
talking about the films being in series,
I'm ready for this.
Where do you think this particular one would appear in the Hall of Halloween?
Okay, number one. I think we need to zoom in on that so we can actually see what's happening.
So here we've got Halloween at the top.
I am going to, if you grab it, and I am.
Says, remember to click the right icon this time. Here we go. Yeah.
Right. It's definitely okay. Pull her up.
So,
up.
Are we above Halloween 2?
Up. Oh, easily above Halloween 2. Above
compared to Halloween 3, right? Yep.
God. Okay. I would like to pull it down a bit further. Stop.
Yeah.
Because I am relatively confident it can fit another movie in there. But I want to see it first. I would like to lower Halloween 3 a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I would also like
waist height for Halloween 3.
Yeah, I'd also like to lower Halloween 2.
Oh, okay.
That's
interesting because at the start of tonight you were saying that it had grown on you a little bit, but now you're saying
I've seen what we could have won.
Yeah.
Stop. Yeah. I'm little higher. A little bit more. Have I put it back to where it was before?
Not quite. We're still a little bit lower.
I'm just somehow very. I know they've had 10 years, and I know that they've now taken a lot of stuff from other movies that it inspired. But it does just show how it was. Whilst I was feeling a bit softer towards Halloween 2, this is absolutely a much better film.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on
straight
that
up.
One. Yeah. This as a sequel works far better than Halloween 2.
Yeah. And just as a movie, and I might move the stuff underneath again, and obviously I'm more than happy to knock things down if the others managed to really impress me. But Halloween 4 at the moment, it's like I'm really happy Halloween was made because that meant Halloween 4 could exist.
Yeah.
So that's my position. I'm sticking to it. So, I feel very.
I am genuinely excited for part 5 now.
Yeah.
Normally it's sort of like, oh yeah, I'll watch that in a couple of weeks. But now it's sort of like, well, what time is it? You know, I could.
You could. You won't.
Yeah, we won't.
You could.
We will in fact
if
wait a little bit.
I'm gonna have to wait. I do want to watch it. I would happily cane the next 2 just to get it done with.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, we will be waiting until Tuesday, the 29th of June.
Oh yes, we will.
When we will get to see the 1989 film Halloween 5: The Revenge of Michael Myers.
Ooh.
So 1 year after the events of Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers, the Shape returns to Haddonfield once again in an attempt to kill his now mute niece. The Shape?
Ooh. Yeah, Michael Myers is called the Shape.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was called the Shape in the original. Because that meant that it's some bizarre reason they called him the Shape, even though he was Michael Myers. But I don't know why they just called him that.
Okay, that's interesting. That's something new.
Yeah, that's pretty much it all from here.
Yes, so from us and everybody here on Bunkazilla Twitch, the home of geek culture in the UK.
Goodbye. Bye.